What's up, YouTube? So today I just wanted to talk about how I got into gardening and why my garden's progressively getting bigger every season, and where am I gonna stop? Where I'm gonna stop, who knows? You know, every year it just gets better and better, and I'm getting more and more acclimated to success. But both my grandfathers were gardeners, and my dad had a small garden. Never started seeds from himself, my father, but he always had a garden. And, basically, my dad's father had a pretty big garden space, honestly, from what I have imprinted in my brain from memories. I remember it was very big. And he always was supplementing his income with tomatoes and stuff like that, which is an excellent option, because if there's one thing that everybody needs is food, food and water for growth. And a lot of people still to this day supplement income with gardens and specialties. And that's basically how my dad and his father garden. And then on my mother's side, my mother's father just grew pretty much cantaloupes, and he was just always loving cantaloupes, and they were just so sweet. And I remember all the cantaloupes we used to grow. It was pretty exciting, honestly, because my one grandfather's garden was kind of in the middle of a yard that didn't back up to any wildlife or woods or anything. And then my other grandfather's backed right up to the woods. And you could see a difference in the gardens just from being close to the woods, being far away from the woods. And believe it or not, the woods, there is so much beneficial, worm castings, leaf litter, bugs. There's a lot of beneficial stuff that will wash into your garden. You could see the difference, and definitely see the difference. Now, where I started, I kind of been managing the little, the one bed that you guys see in my videos is where it pretty much all started for me. And my dad used to grow his garden there, but eventually 4 years ago I completely took it over. And I helped all of them with their gardens pretty much at one point. And gardening is kind of one of those things, it gives me a sense of accomplishment when I grow stuff and I harvest it and I give it to people and they show me appreciation. I learned not to give my stuff to everyone. I give it to people who appreciate it. This is my time and my energy right here. Everything that goes on outside, my whole yard is where most of my life is, to be honest. And I never understood how much satisfaction I would get from my own garden. So we'll get to 3 years ago when I really went crazy, and that's where I started going with all different types of stuff, and I was just buying seeds that I wanted to try and this and that. And then the following year after that, I had, which was pretty much last year, I went a little crazy, but it was more controlled. And then this year is going to be crazy but full control, because I have a complete understanding of all my beds, all my grow racks, all my seeds. I can just smell the peppers from here. Believe it or not, I can smell the peppers. There's a pepper aroma in the air. But long story short is, I knew that I was gonna have to do something with my life, and you know, it's kind of tough because I spent 5 years in college, and you know, it really didn't do much for me, and in a sense, I didn't really know why I was in college. I didn't know what jobs I would get after college and this and that. But so literally coming to today, I have a better understanding of who I am as a person, and I love plants, you know, and for some reason these, like, the plants actually bring out a part of me that I never knew was there, to be honest. Like every single one of these are like my little baby. Like, you know, I would get sad if one wasn't growing right. But here's a cool one. The Pepin's Golden Honey. It got like a beautiful, the starter leaves were purple, and now it's growing nice green ones, which is freaking awesome. I never grew these. And these are, these I got off a site that were kind of like expensive for like 5 seeds. So, I mean, I germinated all 5, and 3 of them worked, and one germinated and then didn't make it, which, you know, it happens. But to this year, I decided that I wanted to look at this as a lifestyle, and, you know, where I can take it and understand more about the genetics of the plants and see what I can do just from going from a consumer to a person who has tomatoes that no one else is going to have in my county, or peppers that I can eat all day until I'm blue in the face. And basically, like, even every year I try and go with something new. And crazy, just like, I swear, squash and cucumbers pretty much smell the same. Cucumbers are a little sweeter smelling, but here's a canary bell. Smells like pepper. And, you know, all these tomatoes are pretty much growing really well. But I realized last year that I need to make a move in my life, and, you know, I really have no clue what the heck I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. And, you know, if you do know what you're doing for the rest of life and you are happy, that's awesome for you. Like, it's tough, you know. We're kind of like in a weird age where it's like, do you go full technology, or do you stay part technology, part regular? You know, it's like crazy because, like, the future's coming quick. But what I do have visioned in my head is like my own container growing. I just have like a container tomato squash. Like, I have like a vision in my head of like having shipping containers that are, every square foot is just something growing in it, and it's going to be all hydroponics or soil. You could do either, you know. You literally can do either if you want. But I have a lot of ideas, and you know what? They're going to be shown because I put together a 5-year plan for myself and how I want to go about growing what I'm doing now. And, you know, 5 years from now, I'm starting my 2nd year, and, you know, like my 2nd year of my 5-year plan, and this is just, it's almost beautiful in a way. Just like these little plants are so crazy. If you look real closely at tomato plants, they got these little black specks on them, and if you look real closely to squash, they get this beautiful silvering, and just so cool. You know, and every plant is different. That's what also kind of like I really like about them, because, you know, every single plant's different. Well, So long story short is, I got to today, and 3 days ago, my first asparagus shoot shot out. Today, my first sugar snap pea seed broke ground, which is awesome. That means they're going to be coming fast. I noticed that my eggplants stunted a little bit, but this is where you get to kind of do your own science and experiment. Is I realized that the floor of my basement is too cold for the eggplants to grow properly. So I move them up 2 racks, and all of a sudden the growth started up again perfectly. So now I know not to start eggplants on the bottom row. You live and you learn, but they're gonna recover fast. I have nutrients coming in at the end of this week, so I will start nutrient feeding all these by the end of the week. You gotta be delicate with the nutrients, because you don't want to over add nutrients. It's a lot different than me spraying nutrients on a whole garden bed than it is adding it to every little plant. You could definitely do a little too much. Now, these little plants, like a plant like this, can only absorb so many parts per million in the water. Like this plant, I would say no more than 600 around. And you would want to make sure that you're not overfeeding, and you need to know what's in your tap water or your well water, and you need to know how many parts per million are in there, because my parts per million is 300, and I don't have RO, I don't do any of that. So that leaves me with 300 more parts per million to add nutrients to. And you know what? I'm on well water, so there's definitely a lot of beneficial minerals and stuff in the water. So it's not a complete bad thing. It's not really that bad. It's an adjustment thing. Now, when I decided to change things up, and actually today I started my romaine. I got red and green romaine, and then I started all the strawberries that I saved from last season as seeds. Just get them all started so I can add them to my vertical planters, and then I'm gonna add the lettuce to it too. I just wanted to make sure we're out of the freezing temperatures. And basically, if it keeps freezing, I don't keep my hoses connected to the house, just so they don't freeze. And I take my retractable hoses indoors for the winter, just so they don't have any malfunctions for the next season. And that's just all common sense stuff. My soaker hose is not out right now. I'm gonna have to set that all up, and there's just a lot of stuff that's gonna be happening soon. And this year I'm practically gonna be 2. So last year was 1x. This is gonna be 2.5x. So 2.5x. So I'm essentially pushing myself 1.5 times harder than I did last season. And I do this all by myself. I harvest all this stuff pretty much by myself. I ask my son to help sometimes. I do all the pruning myself. I do all the starting pretty much myself. My son helps me with a little bit of stuff. But this year I'm pushing myself, so we're gonna see how this year goes. I'm already hot, and this season didn't even start. Best believe this is getting all cut off once I start getting uncomfortable. But I definitely am really looking forward to the bread and salt tomatoes. But pretty much that's it. I run all 6500s. Blue spectrums are for vegetation. And then as you get out of the blues into the the red spectrum and the blue mixed spectrum, that's when you promote flowering, and it kind of changes the way the plant grows. So right now, when you run a plant under blue spectrum, it promotes vegetation growth, not so much flowering. When you start flowering too early, it will stunt your plant. So normally you need to know how long you're gonna veg your plant for, and that's about it. Now, knowing that you're gonna be putting your plants outside around here, I'm putting mine out mid-April around, that's instantly going to show it some of the red spectrum, so you can expect your plants to start switching out of vegetation and more of vegetation and flowering. And then as the sun rotates and the spectrum gets more red, the plant doesn't veg as much and it focuses more on fruiting. And this is all stuff like you can learn, and I've spent many years researching stuff like about pretty much everything wildlife related and plant related. I know a good amount about all insects, amphibians, mammals, plants. Like, I'm a science person. That's just how I am. I've always been fascinated by science. But to this day, I just always wanted to do my own thing, and it takes time to get to where you're at, and there's always going to be a need for food, and I don't think the food prices will go down. I just don't. There's more people to feed. There's just a lot of factors that go into growing food that people don't look into. But here, I don't use no pesticides. I don't use anything unnatural around my plants, and that makes it a little trickier too, because there's a lot of obstacles that come into when you garden, and basically you're gonna figure this out as you go along. Every place is a little different. They might have more of a certain insect and less of a certain insect, and the last frost might be earlier or later, and there's a lot you guys gotta look into. But I mean, for the most part, this year is starting out perfect. I started 660 plants, and 27 of them didn't make it. Well, the seeds were started, but they either didn't push through the soil, or they just it happens. It's 600 plus plants. It's gonna be like that. And I also removed all my I also brought all my fig trees out, my blueberry bushes. I still have all my citrus plants and my mango tree and all the fig cuttings that I started already indoors, just to get them to grow. They're all still indoors. They won't be put out for at least these guys go out. And I'm gonna definitely try some new things with that also. I want to make it so that my mango plant, my citrus trees can all live without supplemental light next year, so that cuts out an electric bill. Now, when you're doing this, it is definitely a game of patience. It's a game of being frugal. You're not going to get anywhere in this if you just go out and blow all your money on stuff. Sometimes it's just better to acquire free pots and go. Pretty much most of the one bed, all that dirt, I dug out of the woods and wheelbarrowed it to the bed. I'm all about saving money. It kind of gives me some enjoyment knowing I'm saving $1. But that $1 can go somewhere else. All that potting soil dirt that I saved money on, I was able to get 5 or 6 more fig trees, easy, add varieties. But pretty much that's what I wanted to talk about. My game started. This is it. Everything. I couldn't ask for it to grow better at this point. Everything is going perfect. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about my garden and my life, and that's pretty much it. I hope you guys all have a great day, evening, night, and I hope some of you guys actually start gardening yourself, or at least taking care of a plant that you find fascinating, and that's about it. Thank you guys for watching my video, and I appreciate all the positive feedback that everyone's been giving me, and I really do enjoy showing you guys everything, even though it adds extra steps to everything I do, videotaping it. I do enjoy the feedback, and I do enjoy letting you guys get some information that's in my head, that I figured out through my little scientific experiments. And I'm excited for this year, and it's going to be a good year. It's going to be a good year for me.